Hey, 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 hey. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to Momo Love Presents many voices of the community. Yes, you would think that I would know. Been doing this thing since March. Started, with the onset of the novel coronavirus, and it has just evolved. And my guest is here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and bring him in on. Then I can talk about all of that stuff. Community activist. He is a host, comedian. You know when you push these buttons. A community activist. He's a host. He's a comedian. Mayor of the Green Line, Mr. Joe Jack.
Hey,
Nice. I like that setup.
it's good.
You're a professional.
Thank you.
So, Joe, thank you first of all. I started this series at the beginning of the onset of the novel coronavirus, and it was a way for me to reach out to my friends and family members of the community to just lay my eyes on them and say, Joe Jack, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
lot going on.
Yeah, it's been a whole lot going on. It's been a whole lot going on.
Like I said, coronavirus, George Floyd, Rayshard Brooks, lynchings, on and on. And so I wanted to do this series because I wanted to know what was going on with my brothers,
hmm
to see this imagery, the mindset of my Black brothers of seeing their brothers time and time again slayed, disrespected, emasculated, all of these things, and just kind of really understand what is it like. I mean, because we're Black, I'm a Black woman, I can understand, relate to your Blackness, but what is
hmm
it really like to walk around as a Black man in the United States of America in 2020?
Well, to me, I wouldn't say that I'm fearful, but I'm very cautious. One thing I think that a lot of people don't understand is the fact that, a lot of us Black males, we tend to, um, do this thing every morning when we wake up where we pray to the Most High, asking the Most High to keep us safe, hope and pray that we make it back home. A lot of us go through that ritual every morning. And a lot of us also feel that, you know, the police brutality is not going to stop. It's going to continue to go on. And the reason why I feel like it's going to continue to go on is because, number one, white people are not feeling what we feel. You know, if they were waking up every morning to brothers dying at the hands of an unjust system, uh, in my opinion, coronavirus is directed towards us. If they had to be constantly dealing with that on a daily basis, then it would stop. But until they feel what we feel, it's going to continue to go on. It's going to continue to. And the sad thing is, I sit back now and I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to wake up and see tomorrow? Is there going to be another brother that dies? But the thing that really upsets me about it is you have one brother dying one week, then the next week, and then it happens again. It's almost like they saying, we're going to continue doing this and just let y'all continue to march. But I think with the protest thing, we need to be more organized. We need to have a strategy. And I think one of the biggest strategies that we can have is boycotting these businesses. Stop going to work. That's to me, our voices will be heard that way. If we just stop participating, stop giving them our time, and then let them feel, that they need us,
Yeah.
and then also, I also think too, we need to start developing our own businesses and becoming more self-sufficient. Because, throughout the years, it shows that the more we continue to work for the system, it really is not going to really get us to where we really want to go. And where we need to go is Black ownership, having our own.
Now that's a lot right there, right? But let me take it back a little bit, because we're talking about the state of the Black man's mind. We're talking about coming of age, and right now this police conversation is everything. I want to know your thoughts on police as a young person. First of all, did your parents ever have the talk with you about what would happen if the police came up behind you while you're driving or while you're sitting outside on your stoop?
Well, my mother and father were from Southern Maryland. So, they encountered a lot of racism.
Mm.
So, their thing was, stay out of the streets, stay out of certain areas, and, just always keep your head on the swivel. That was their whole thing. That's what they always taught. And even like now, my queen, she laughs at me all the time because I do the speed limit because I don't want to have anything to do with the police. If they pull me over, it's for going too slow or to give me an award saying, hey, man, we've been watching you for years and you have been doing 55 forever. But that's just one of the reasons why I do that, because I don't want to have any encounters with the police at all.
Yeah, and I think it's sad because even as young people, we already know that we have to, which is crazy that we're taught that we have to succumb, subdue, little ourselves, get down on the other side of the walkway. We're taught that.
Yeah.
Where they're taught to walk proud with your head up, and this whole coming of age, I love these young people that are out there marching and doing the daggone thing. Because Joe, I'm up there in age and I'm scared. I'm not going to lie, I'm scared. And so I appreciate them for getting out there, and I hope that they're not upset with us or even our parents for almost failing them a little bit. But, when we're talking about that coming of age time, we're talking about daddy issues, whether you were raised in the house with your dad or not, things that they taught you, and especially when you're going into manhood versus masculinity. Joe, when did you realize the difference? Like, what goes through a young man's mind trying to figure out this, am I a man or, I'm a man?
Well, I think, as a Black man, when you start to encounter all of these problems dealing with racism, that's when you start to say to yourself, okay, I have to be a man. I have to be a protector. I have to be a survivor, because we have to do these things at an early age, because we encounter those things at an early age. Like, I was just telling some people one time, how, trying to get a job at the local malls was a hard thing, especially when they saw where I came from, my address. So right then and there, it was like, you have to be a man at that, when you deal with those situations, because, you have to keep yourself encouraged. You have to keep motivating yourself and keep telling yourself that, hey, I'm going to be able to move forward, but I just got to keep on pushing on. And that's one of the things that even right now, that's what I do, with stand-up comedy. I just continue to push on because I know it's harder for me as a Black male or just as a Black artist to make it in the industry, because it's run by them. It's a white supremacist industry,
and
white
it's so
supremacist driven industry.
Yeah, and it's crazy how it's not crazy, because it is crazy, because it's so ingrained in them and in us that even sometimes we can't see it, and that's why, again, I wanted to talk to my brothers, because there's been so many issues or times in life where you guys can really call up, oh, I experienced that, I knew that was racist, oh, I knew it was because I was a Black man, and the emotions are real. Y'all are taught, don't cry, suck it up, man.
Right.
And like, who do you talk to? Who do you vent these emotions to? Do you have somebody?
Well, I have a group of brothers who I've been around for 20 years or more, and I converse with them. Sometimes, when I used to live where I lived, when I was closer to them, we met on a daily basis and we talked about different topics that we faced or things that were going on in our communities, mainly Black on Black crime, because I grew up in Southeast Washington, D.C. And, as you look at the news now, you see that crime is definitely on a rise in our community. And that's one of the biggest things we talk about, because, one thing that we always feel like is, because there's so much black on black crime in our community, it's almost like we're vulnerable, like we're vulnerable. That's why I think that, to a certain extent, I think that that's one of the reasons why police brutality is the way that it is. Now, I think that even if we weren't killing each other, there would still be police brutality, because if you know the nature of the beast and you know the history of the beast, you understand their culture, because they've been going at us since we came in contact with them.
And that's the truth about it. So what are your thoughts on defunding the police? The Southeast DC has had a history of being one of the most poor and impoverished areas of the city. It has had a history of black on black violence. It has had a history of just poverty in general. And if you hear anybody that says that they're from Southeast, you hear one of either two things: Southeast, or Southeast, and but when you really think about it, there are working class people that live in Washington, D.C., Southeast Washington, D.C. They pay their taxes. They are good, God-fearing citizens. And overall, they are good, real people. Okay.
And another thing, not to cut you off, but another thing too is, one thing that I like about Southeast is that, because of our environment, it teaches a lot of artists and brothers and sisters who are trying to move forward to be creative and to create things so that you can get out of that situation and move forward, and then one day come back and talk to the youth and teach them to be creative and to come out of that situation. But you're absolutely right as well.
But Joe, I wanted to get into that piece a little bit, because born in Southeast, product of Southeast, know that there are some great people in Southeast. But I want to talk about voting, and because DC has a mayor, DC has representation in Congress, even though, they say no taxation without representation, all that stuff. But I'm talking about these ANC commissioners. I think Trayvon White is ANC.
Yeah, Trayvon White.
Now, I don't know him personally. We used to go to church together way back in the day. But I'm just thinking about even him and others that may be like him. You've been in this seat. You say you've been fighting, but a lot of things really haven't changed. But I'm also an outsider, Joe. So can you speak to what's really going on over there? I mean, I see so much change, and the change is looking like this.
Right. I think that, because I know Trayvon White, and one of the things that I do see is he's trying to do so much, but he has so much on his shoulders, and I don't think that he's getting the help of the community like he should. Because, I think you had Mitch Credo on your show last week or something like that. And, he speaks about how the community has to get more involved to actually help these ANC commissioners out and these council people out, because, it has to take a village to stop all of this. And, I think that he's doing the best that he can, but he has so much fight against him and so many people on his back. And I think the reason why he has so many people on his back is because he's trying to help out brothers and sisters in the community, because they don't talk about him fighting to get brothers and sisters from the community employed on these construction projects, trying to get affordable housing in the community, fighting to help brothers to get CDL licenses so that they can go on and do, be productive citizens in the community. Also, they don't talk about him trying to fight for those brothers and sisters who coming home from being incarcerated. They don't talk about that. But so I think Trayvon White is doing what he can do, but you're not going to see change if you don't see the community helping him to push that change.
Yeah, and Mitch and I talked about that, the community involvement. Community says that they want this, that the government needs to do better about this, and this is why we don't have that. But you're right, the community doesn't get in on when they see a broad daylight shootout.
Yeah,
When Relisha Rudd, who I know you are a very big advocate on,
yeah,
we're not getting out there talking about certain things. But then
yeah.
when we do, and the government makes a change, such as the Criminal Justice Act, way back in
Mm,
1994, then we're upset because we see the outcome of it.
right.
But we got to get in there on the beginning. I'm so in agreement with you with that.
Yeah, yeah, we have to, because, and then another thing too is, just from growing up in Southeast, you know, a lot of these parents know what their children are doing, but a lot of times they don't stop these kids because that child may be bringing a certain amount of money into the household to help out. So, a lot of people look at it like, I'm not gonna bite the hand that feeds me.
Ooh. And that's
You know?
real. That's so
Yeah,
real. Like, we're
yeah,
placed in these environments, and as hard as we may fight, because we're just as educated, we're just as smart, we're just as capable.
yeah.
However, there are so many things that keep us down. I read a book by Carol Anderson called White Rage, and in the book she talks about how small towns, or towns that have predominantly Black people, like Southeast DC, you have these community police, or police that are policing the community. They make it
Right,
their point. If you're going 26 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone, you're going to get a ticket.
right,
And then the question becomes, do I pay this $25 ticket, or do I get lunch for my daughter the next week? And
right,
then we get into these situations where now we've gotten three $25 tickets. Now it's 75. Now I got to go to court. I still can't pay it. Now I got to get
right.
locked up. It's just a vicious, serious cycle that if we don't get
Yeah,
in front of this thing, I don't know
yeah.
what's going to happen.
Right. And that's very true. And that's another thing too, that, when you were speaking of the defunding of the police department. Now, I don't agree with that, but what I do agree with is people from those areas, or people who are familiar with people in those areas policing those areas,
Okay.
because I think you would get better results. I mean, because you have to know how to communicate with the people you're policing. And because of gentrification, when I was living on First Street Southeast, a lot of the police that were coming into our community, they were from white boys from Pennsylvania, the West Coast, and not saying that they couldn't understand us, but their culture, their background, you could just tell that they were not educated about the people that they were policing. They only knew about us from what they seen in the media. And the media always portrays the Black man as being negative, brutal,
Yeah.
without an education, drunk, high.
Yeah.
So when they come into our communities, that's how they deal with us.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many different situations go wrong. As a matter of fact, if there were camera phones back in the 80s, you would have seen a lot of,
I'm sure. Yeah.
you've seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was a lot going on. We're talking about defunding the police right now. That's one of the biggest police reform, defund the police. I've always been told, if you got bad apples in the bag, you need to just throw the whole bag out. It's very, very hard to salvage some of those apples. And if you do, you got to cut them up and chop them up and make them better, right?
Right.
So they're edible. You talked about putting police officers that represent their community in the community. What else would you talk about in defunding the police? Because it doesn't mean eradicate, wash it out. It means make it better. So what else would you, one other thing, if you could sit down and have your piece, what would you say?
I would also say, educate the police. They need to be, they need to, whether they're from the area or not, they still need to be educated, because, even though I grew up in Southeast, there's a lot of things I still don't know about the hood. I think that education would be very important. And somebody just said on your post, retraining. Yeah, I definitely retraining, re-educating, and re-evaluating.
Yeah.
That's what I would say that.
I think so. We talk about mental health awareness, and a lot of times we associate it with women because men are strong, they don't cry, they don't have feelings, they're not supposed to feel any of these things. But we talk about good mental health, eating right, exercising, get enough rest. You talked about being a comedian. Coronavirus has really put a halt on your profession, and
Yes.
laughter is so good for the soul and so needed right now. But do you think that it's hard to find the funny right now?
For hard to find the funny.
Yes.
I think it is, but this is our job, so our job is to find the funny. And one thing that I've been doing lately is a lot of different skits. And I've been mainly, my audience is, I'm targeting the DC audience because I'm seeing what's going on around us. Black on black crime is high. There's, we're constantly fighting to keep our music out there. While we're here, I want to shout out my man Wiley Brown, Chuck Brown's son.
Wiley.
And, we're just constantly fighting. So I've just been coming up with skits. I've been doing this thing called DC Word of the Week. I've been doing this other skits called Billy Ray and Friends, where I'm all of these different characters. And sometimes I address topics that need to be addressed. Well, sometimes I just want to give something, give the people something to laugh at, because we need that balance. We can't always sit and talk about police brutality. Sometimes we have to, set that on the shelf for a little while and deal with something else, but still have that balance, knowing that it's still there,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Did you get out there and protest? Demonstrate?
No, I didn't, because I was working and doing a lot of different things. But I'm definitely gonna make it my business to go down to Black Lives Matter Plaza, because I want to see that, and I definitely applaud all the young people who are out there. They are definitely doing their thing, And but then also too, one of the reasons why I haven't been down there is because I don't trust the mixing of the people like that. I used to go to the Million Man March and all those different things where it was brothers, but there's a lot of white people out there, and they screaming some stuff out there. I don't topple the regime. I'm like, black people don't say that, man. That's not us, right? I'm like, the regime. Do you know how?
Nothing about no regime.
You know what we got to do to topple a regime? So, but yeah, I'm definitely in support of what's going on down there.
Yeah. Talking about this regime and protesting, what do you feel about these statues that must come down?
Well, my thing is, I look at it from this point. My thing is, leave them up, because my thing is, I don't want to go into no area and there's no statue, and I'm thinking everything is all good, and I get my head bust wide open. So leave those markers up so that I can know where I am.
I didn't even think about that.
You tearing these markers down, and I drive into an area where I ain't supposed to be. If that General Lee statue was left up there, I would know where I wasn't supposed to be at. So sometimes you got to leave the markers.
I didn't even think about it that way. That might be the right thing to do, to leave the markers up. But,
yeah.
It does give you pause for thought, because really these were men who, right, I'm crying too. I'm crying too. These were men who fought in a war to keep slaves, who lost the war. And now we have these 6 to 10 feet statues. And then the one that Eleanor Holmes Norton is trying to get out of EMS. I don't even know if I ever seen that statue.
Yeah. Your volume went low a little bit. I don't know if it's my phone. Let me see if it's my phone.
No, I can, these.
Okay.
it.
Okay,
All
I can hear
right,
you
come
now.
on. Good. But
Yeah,
I
but
was
yeah,
shocked about the statue. I don't think I ever saw that statue.
yeah, and then another thing with them statues, that's a lot of work to be pulling and tugging. I ain't got time to be doing all that. Then you knowing me, the statue might fall my way, and I might, nah.
Right. That's funny. You
They
know,
like Joe got smashed up by the damn statue.
I call your president the national dumpster because you know nothing but trash comes out of his mouth.
Yeah.
He says anybody that pulls over those statues, he wants them, charged to the fullest extent of the law, 10 years in jail.
Mm-hmm. He said what now?
He said anybody that he finds that pulls those statues over, he wants to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, and they have to go to jail for 10 years.
He's definitely an idiot. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, you getting 10 years in prison because you snatched down something that's not even living and something that represents negativity.
Yeah.
That shows you where his mindset is.
Yeah. We talk about we've been talking about black on black crime, and I wanted to wait until we got to a certain point of it. And a lot of times people don't want to have the discussion, especially us black folks. Black on black crime is different than them killing us. Yes. But you said something that really made me think. It does make us get looked at a very different way when we're killing each other. That adds fuel to the fire. Mm-hmm. And is it because we're in poverty? Is it because we don't have anything else to do? What are we fighting for when we're killing one another over Jordans and blocks that don't belong to us?
I really think that a lot of the stuff that these young people are fighting over, it's generational beefs. Your father killed my father. So, I'm going to keep that going. I think that's what's going on. Then another thing is poverty, lack of education, people not liking what they see in the mirror. So anything that looks like what they see in the mirror, they're going to kill it or try to get rid of it or try to injure it or try to harm it so that they'll never deal with them again. I think it's a lot of factors as to why a lot of the youth are doing what they do. I think that one of the main things is a lot of us suffer from a slave mentality, and we have not yet broken that. Somebody has to break that cycle, and we have not yet broken that cycle of slave mentality in our families. And I think that's one of the things that we have to do as a people is we have to break that cycle so that we can start thinking more positive. We need to start eating better, because I think that when you eat better, you think better.
Yeah. And a lot of that is good to say, but we've also talked about, now, first of all, we've had a lot of black people who showed us how powerful and strong we are. I mean, James Brown, we're black and we're proud. We had Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, we had Huey P. Newton. We have Medgar Evers. We have people that we don't even talk about, that we know about, that let us know that we are kings and queens in this thing we call history, in African history, right? We know that you mentioned earlier boycotting. It took 3 years, but they understood that our black dollars matter. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about unity, we're talking about boycotting, we're talking about black ownership, but we're also talking about having this slave mentality. And I heard what you said, in family, because that's where it's broken down and put in generation after generation, because we're still being taught that slave stuff. Well, you know how you got to do when the white people come around, you better, that whole step and fetch. Right. How we gonna get to unity, Joe?
I think, like I said, education. We have to have that. I think education is one of the most important things in order for us to come together, because we all have to be thinking on the same basis in order to come together. We have to be thinking on the same basis in order to move in the same directions. I also think that we also have to start um, putting our religions, leaving our religions at home. And what I mean by that is, you know, how you worship is how you worship. Let's not allow that to separate us as a people. You know, let's understand that we have a common objective, and that's to fight against a system that is keeping us in the situation that we're in. You know, and I think that's one of the ways that we can move forward. Because, you know, I think that when you put religion into protests and different things or politics, you start having separations. People don't want to fight with this person because they believe this, or people don't want to fight with this person because they believe in this particular politician. So I think that if we all focused on one common denominator, we could move forward as one unit.
And I think the common denominator is there, that we're all Black and we are all fighting against the injustice. But I agree with you. We do bring in all of these other things. CCA events, big up yourself, doing big things in the DMV. He said that all groups of people kill within their race. Look at the mob. The media just keeps ours in the news. It's still too high, but we're not the only ones. True, we're not the only ones. And I was listening to a radio program today where the host was saying, well, a caller said, oh, we need to look at what these other people are doing. And the host said, no, we need to focus on what we need to do. And I think sometimes that's part of it. We feel like we've arrived. We've gotten to a point. We can buy our Louboutins and we here. And we forget that really we're only 50 years out of the fight for civil rights.
Yeah, it was just around the corner. You know, people look at it like, oh, that was in the past. No, that was just yesterday. You know, and we're still we are still suffering from that today.
Yeah.
You know, because it was just yesterday.
Joe, you famous. I got a question up in the question box. Hold on, let me see if I can bring that. Okay, all right. The question is from Papa Josh. He says, do you agree we are taught to have slave mentality?
You said what now?
Question was, do you think we were taught to have the slave mentality?
The volume is down.
Do you think that we were taught to have slave mentality?
You said, when do you think we were taught?
Do you think we were taught to have it?
The volume is down. Let me see something.
What could be the issue? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I'm trying.
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Oh my.
I can't.
Well, my volume button is all the way up.
Oh, you said, do you think we were taught to do I think that we were taught to have a slave? Oh yeah, definitely, because we were definitely taught to have a slave mentality, because that was one of the reasons to keep us in place. Mm-hmm. You know, because when you're not taught to have a slave mentality, you start thinking for yourself, and you start thinking, well, look, I can do this and I can do that and I can, you know, but the system has embedded that in us that, you know, you have to, the only way you can make it is the way that we all want you to make it. The way that you can pray to God is the way that we want you all to pray to God.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah.
So I get that. Okay, so here's a question. How can the woman support the Black man?
You said, how can a woman support the Black man? I think that the woman can support the Black man by encouraging the brother, being there for the brother when the brother's going through the fight, and cooking some good meals. No, I'm kidding. No, but you know, just being there, you know, just being there, being supportive, being sincere, having a spiritual connection with the brother, and uplifting the brother spiritually, as well as us uplifting our queens, because in my opinion, a village cannot grow if the queen is not being watered.
I love that. I love that. I actually do. You know, Brother Joe, the reason I started this was again with the onset of coronavirus. Oh, wait, by the way, before I
Hey,
get into
Momo, I'm
that.
still having problems with the volume. I can't really, because a call came through, and after that, the volume just went down.
Oh, so you got an iPhone?
I'm trying to figure out what can I do because I don't want to cut this off.
I don't want to cut it off either. Can you hear me?
Let me see
Can
something.
you hear me now? Maybe I should put on some earphones.
I don't know what's going on. Maybe the man is trying to mess us up.
I refuse to let them. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can't hear you as clear as you were.
Okay. So here, let me ask you this. Corona's still out there. Do you think it's too early to open up?
You
Is it
you
too early?
you
Is it
you
too
said
early to
what?
open up? Is it too early to open up? Too early to go back outside?
You think the world? Do I think that the world needs to open back up? Um, right now, I don't think so. I don't think so right now because the coronavirus has went nowhere. And we out here partying and this and that, and I think that the coronavirus is a part of biological warfare. So we gonna get out there and we gonna party, and then we gonna start getting sick, and so no, I'm not ready, and then I like being home anyway.
I don't think how many of us realized we were introverts until this happened.
Yeah, that's true. That is because just the other day when I finally went out and I saw the traffic, I said, "Damn, why can't we be quarantined again?" But I mean, where I'm living at now, that's the culture of the people anyway. They go out to the stores and go back home. Go to the stores, go back home. So it's to me that's the culture of where I am. And I mean, I'm not a young dude anymore, so I don't need to be out running around all the time like that no more.
But it has been mind-blowing, Joe. I mean, with the mask, with the gloves, with the wiping and the spraying. How has that been on your mind mentally? How has that been affecting you?
This volume is I still can't. I don't know if it's my phone or.
How is the coronavirus with you having to put on the mask and gloves? How has that changed your life so much?
She said the gloves and the mask and all of that. How does that affect you?
Oh. Now let me tell you something. Yeah, could you keep doing that because I can't hear. But yeah, I don't like wearing a mask and a glove. And another thing why I don't like wearing a mask because I got a big nose. So the masks that I have are not for black people. No, I find myself one time this dude said, "Man, your mask is not even covering your face because it was just on my nose." So I need a mask that's gonna cover my whole. Matter of fact, I might start wearing scuba equipment.
You know what? I cannot deal with Joe Jack, the mayor of the Green Line. All right, Joe, how can everybody follow you and get more of your antics and see your skits?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at JoeJackMGL, at Billy Ray 521. You can follow me on TikTok at JoeJackMGL. Yeah, I think I'm the oldest dude on TikTok. You could also find me on Facebook at Joe Jackson, Mayor of the Green Line. And if you're trying to book me, you can email me at josephjackson020@gmail.com.
Yes. Do you still put out the Mayor of the Green Line report?
Yeah, I do that every day.
Yeah.
I do that. I love that because it gives me life in the morning.
It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I want to thank you for your time. And,
I thank you for having me, Momo.
Yeah. I miss you.
Every time I come on your show, it's always a great thing. You need to be on a national platform.
Your lips to God is, honey.
Yeah, you definitely need that. So, yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and when we open up outside, you know you got to be one of the first people back to the show. I am doing a weekday midday reggae mix show on a Blazing Radio. It's Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can listen live on the website www.ablazingradio.com. I also do a Wednesday night show 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. called Community Voices on the same station. Catch me here on Instagram, where I talk to my brothers, my business community leaders, women, men, all of the African diaspora, just trying to get through this thing. You know what I mean? We got to keep pushing our narrative. We have to keep telling
Yes.
our story. We have to use our voice. We cannot allow these people to say who we are, because we are kings and queens. We hail from them. We have beautiful legacies, and we have beautiful legacies that we must leave for our children. Joe Jack, comedian, writer, producer, community activist, mayor of the Green Line, and my friend. I love you so. Thank you.
All right, peace. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.